We'll call the meeting to order, and Commissioner Robertson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we have roll call, I'm just testing out my voice. Can everyone hear me okay?
Not too good.
Not too good. Would you like me to move the microphone?
You just speak up a little, I can hear it.
That's as loud as you get.
Oh, my kids love it. Sorry. We'll begin with roll call.
That thing doesn't work unless you get right into it.
Commissioner Bueller? Here. Commissioner Day?
Here.
Commissioner Hewitt? I think she's there. Commissioner Roops?
Here.
Commissioner Robertson?
Here.
Commissioner Speaka? Here. Commissioner Terry? Thank you.
We'll begin with approving minutes for June 17th. Does anyone have any corrections? I have a few, but I just received minutes in writing tonight, so
I have a few as
I
well.
have from page 2. So any other, did anyone not receive the minutes?
I have edits that I would give you.
Okay, so we have edits from here and from you.
And I didn't.
Okay,
Motion to approve?
don't need a motion.
For minutes,
It can be approved as presented.
Okay, awesome. There's no courtesies, no proclamations. We'll go on to board and commission reports. We'll start with Commissioner Robertson.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Roots?
Nothing to report.
I was at the Mountain Development Board meeting, a week or two ago, and there's a board meeting and then their annual meeting. I think the main thing just to put out there of note, is the beginnings of a discussion on their fee structure again. And I think it's something that I'll bring to the commission later on once they get the details, but, essentially, where do I have this information? The fee structure is set up that the higher your population, the more you pay, because you're more likely to benefit from the services of Sly Mountain or their activities. And also, here it is, cities as well as counties pay. So, Fergus County is getting some pushback that maybe it's not fair that they pay so much more than other counties. And I think actually Lewistown citizens are getting the biggest hit because we have the biggest city population and county population, and we're getting double hit. So it's worth knowing. I'm not at all suggesting that it's not worth it, but it is something we want to talk about as a board.
Could you request the kind of active projects within each jurisdiction?
Yes, I can request that, and they talked a little bit about that, but I can get more details. I'm sure we have the vast majority of them. The other thing to note is the pay, like for services provided or anything like that, it's an investment in economic development. So we're investing in this entity essentially, not in the literal sense of investing, but giving them money to help grow our population, grow our tax base. So you can't say, we spent $10,000 and we got this in return. It's investing in our community. So just something to put out there, and if you want to think about that, the proposal from Fergus County was maybe we make it equal per capita again, or like it was originally set out to be. But let's just sort of put that in your ear for now, and they'll send more information, and I can have more information on actual projects and locations, projects in Lewistown.
Yeah. Go ahead. I was just wondering, will you recap again what the city of Lewistown puts in already? Is it on?
You have the current,
This, well, let's see, this is what it would be at the per capita rate. I don't have what we actually do.
I wanna say our current funding level is about $12,000.
I don't think so. I was thinking, I just looked at the budget day. I was thinking it's closer to 10.
Well, this is at, if it was at 169 for everybody, per capita would be 10, but I think we also are pretty close to the average. So it is around there. It's not a lot for investment in economic development.
Okay.
So it might actually not change a lot if it went to a flat per capita, but kind of thinking about overall benefit to our bigger community.
I think it's good to point out the fact that, I mean, our general tax base is getting it twice.
Yeah, at the highest rate. But small numbers in the grand scheme of things. And then they have their annual meeting. It was really well done. They do a lot for this community, and they showed off Crowley Flats twice that day, which are pretty amazing. Partnership between a bunch of entities that made that happen. Those are kind of the high points, because financials and that kind of thing we went over.
Commissioner Bueller?
The library board will be meeting July 18th.
And then the Park and Recs board will meet actually out in East Fork this Wednesday. It's kind of like a board work party, but everyone's invited to come and clean fire pits or mow, bring your weed whackers. Yeah, that's at 7 p.m. out at East Fork this Wednesday evening. Okay, all right, moving on to our city manager report, Holly Phelps.
Yes, so again, everyone's invited to join the fun at East Fork. Also, the Board of Adjustments met last week. They had a variance request, which is their first meeting in probably about 18 months. And the request came from a property owner located at 610 4th Avenue South. He is in the process of remodeling a property he purchased, and the variance was to vary the side yard setback from 5 feet to 2 feet, which is actually making it less or more conforming than it used to be. The previous garage was built right on the property line. And so after the public hearing, the Board of Adjustments did go ahead and approve that request. And so, again, it doesn't come back to you guys. It was just the desire of previous commissions to just do a quick briefing, so that's what that is. Earlier this month, the DEQ was here and did their sanitary survey. That is an inspection of the water system. They do that once every 3 years. And so they went through the entire thing, areas of concern, and while they did have a couple of suggestions for it, deficiencies noted, and you guys have the report. Also, we briefly on all the events surrounding the 4th of July, and later in the week, over the weekend, there will be a swim meet at the park. So there'll be lots of activities going on. We did hire 3 new employees last week. Those employees will go to work at the wastewater treatment plant, and also 2 of them are employees of the Park and Rec department. One of them is a familiar face. Kelly Henderson will be joining us as our new Park and Recreation Director for the Rec department for the last year. So she's currently training with Lisa, so that's been nice. And in July, we have 5 Mondays and our budget season. So I would like to propose a budget work session for the 5th Monday of July. So that's July 29th at 5:30. We would just do budget work, and we're anticipating going over the entire preliminary budget at that time.
Any questions for Holly Phelps? Okay, all right, we are going to move on to public comment, but this is for the public to make comments on non-agenda items. So any comment that you have that does not pertain to what's on the agenda this evening, public comment on non-agenda items? Awesome, so if you could please state your name and
I'm Sandy Lagerschulte, and I live at 417 South High Street. And our road, the street, is in such horrible condition that some of us are having to drive into people's own driveway, these people, so you don't lose your tire or wreck your car. And I've called several times and I've never gotten an answer about when we might expect to see that street fixed. Every year they have to come back and fix the same holes. Are we ever gonna get a whole new street? We do pay taxes.
Is this in the gravel or?
It's
on
blacktop.
It's black.
It's the blacktop.
Okay.
And I know everybody's really busy and the roads are in terrible shape. But like most people, I only care about my car. I'll be honest.
So Public Works has a scheduled maintenance list that people can call in, correct?
And she
see
has,
when-
because I did double check with them, so I know she's on the
Yeah,
list.
yeah, I'm on the list.
Yeah.
But nobody tells me how far down the list.
It just depends on the availability of asphalt, so, and I don't know how long that list is. But they will get to it. As far as, scheduling of work or repaving the whole street, the public Works does prioritize that based on traffic volume, condition of the road, infrastructure such as drainage and stuff like that in the area as well, so.
What I'm thinking is if this apartment building goes up, there's gonna be a lot more, probably, I don't know for sure, a lot more traffic coming down that way, not past my house so much, but at the corner where it's really bad, it's only gonna get worse with traffic.
So where are the, just briefly
Right
tell
at
me?
the junctions at Water Street and Fort and High Street. Yeah, right there at the corner, right there at the junction. I mean, there's some potholes that'll swallow a small
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Okay, consent agenda. Any questions or would anyone like anything looked at or discussed on our consent agenda?
Just out of curiosity, what are the claims we're paying here?
They have a
List of those, it's from June 14th of this year to June 26th. Yeah. Commissioner Rubes?
Anyway, Commissioner Hewitt called me, in case she wasn't able to make it tonight, but on page 5, number 55364, with the redoing of the gym floor at the Civic Center. Wasn't that done like 3 years ago?
so each year we recode it.
Every year, so this is
Yeah.
just a recoding on that, okay? And then, on page 6, number 55372, the dues to the Montana League of Cities, what does that get Lewistown?
So that's our membership and advocacy and support of the league. So it's a membership.
Advocacy and support?
Mhm.
Did the league bring that recent training? Was that the league?
Yep, they partnered with it, yep.
And then on page 9, 55393, I kinda had a question on that too. How did the skid steer door get broke?
I think the hinges, I would have to double
Just
check, I
wore
don't
out?
know, yeah.
Well, look now.
I can ask and get
I
back.
don't know what skid steers cost to repair, but that's probably gonna buy the whole door, huh?
Yeah, I think it's just one component.
Any other inquiries on the claims? We need a motion for this one as well.
I move, we acknowledge the claims have been paid from June 14th through June 26th.
Second?
Awesome. So we have a first from Commissioner Bueller and a second from Commissioner Speaker. We just do a raising the hand. Okay, all in favor, raise the right hand, say aye.
Diana is on the phone. Diana, did you hear?
Diana, can you hear us okay? I should ask her for the report.
She wouldn't have one
She's
until.
in flight.
It's not,
No, she doesn't have
same
one.
day as mine.
Awesome. All right, we'll go ahead, that passes already. Okay. There she is. Diana, can you hear us okay? Okay, moving on to our regular agenda. This is a public hearing to hear comments on a request by Renovator LLC to amend zoning of the property located on Rosewood Street near Fountain Terrace Drive, South High Street, and East Water Street from residential manufactured homes to residential multiple family. So the public hearing is now open.
I would like to turn it over to our city planner, Doug Osterman, to briefly go over his. We have heard from the developer a little bit at the committee of the whole too.
Oh, you did? Okay. My analysis started back in 1971 when the original zoning was placed on the ground. And from my vantage point, it was kind of odd that this was manufactured housing, given how much at that time even they were talking about the need for apartment housing and higher density within the city of Lewistown. That be as it may, it seems like fast forward to today with the need for housing, the notion of a rezone just at the 36,000 foot level makes a lot of sense. It actually makes more sense now than it probably did in 1971. There were some growth policy updates from 71 through 2006. However, each one of those growth policy updates said the same thing, that there's a need for apartment and higher density housing within Lewistown to meet the demand. So again, if you just looked at 2006 through today, that's 18 years that we have gone without really heeding upon this policy construct of higher density within Lewistown. So from my vantage point, past policy of the city that was not enacted and certainly consistent with where the city is going under its new update. Virtually no impacts were identified, except there will be more traffic. However, that traffic needs to be taken into consideration. Under existing zoning, there could be 13 manufactured homes on this 1.06 acres of land. With the proposed rezone, there can be up to 24 units. So you're looking at a net difference in housing units of 11, which from a planning and meeting our growth targets and population targets, 11 is really important. But the overall impact to traffic is expected to be very low. You may have had the chance to talk to John Galt about that, his traffic studies. But it's kind of interesting, and as I understand it, virtually there'd be only one more car an hour if you spread it over the course of a day. If every single resident, if you just made the assumption that all 24 units had 2 cars, and they all left in the morning at the exact same time, and all came back home in the evening at the exact same time, I can't remember the number of trips, but it's pretty minimal. So even at the worst case scenario, the amount of traffic is not great. And as we know, not everybody in there is gonna have 2 cars, and even if they do, they're not likely to be leaving at the same time and returning at the same time every single day of the week. So the traffic will be very moderated through the day in our estimation. Facilities, from a facility standpoint, other than maybe some street improvements that we need to make in the area, the sewer and water capacity is definitely there to serve 11 more units than what would be proposed under that would be able to be put in there under existing manufactured housing. Another observation I made is the topography of the land out there. It kind of speaks to why no one ever has developed it as manufactured housing. It's steep slopes. It would be very costly for someone to actually put the energy into developing it for 13 manufactured homes versus now with 11 more, and the developer is able to make the land accommodate the apartments in a way that's much more efficient and effective than if it had lesser density on the site. So I think this definitely will be something that catalyzes development in the existing city of Lewistown that has been zoned and in the city and provided with sewer and water services for many years. So versus continue to sit there undeveloped. And so our recommendation to the zoning commission was to approve the zoning request. The zoning commission had a public hearing last week, and it was unanimously approved and unanimously recommended for this body to approve the rezone request.
Any other comments for the public hearing?
On this deal? Yeah, those of us who live down there, they put up a 3-story.
Could you?
Donald Lagersholte, 417 South High. I'll take the manufactured homes. They put up this 3-story deal. All of us that live there, our houses now become a fishbowl. Every one of them people gonna look right down in all of us. I personally moved there 10 years ago because I wanted to stay away from that kind of situation. 13 manufactured homes, they're not gonna be staring down in my backyard without even trying. So that's what bothers me. He talks about no traffic. I came home yesterday at 4 o'clock. That intersection, there were 3 of us trying to get through that intersection. Now you can call that a coincidence. You put 24 more cars up there, it's gonna be a mess, is what it's gonna be. I've lived there 10 years, I know.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Well, I'm quite concerned. I'm Janet Gardner, and I live at Fountain Terrace, and I have to walk on Olette to get the little dog park in front of the tower building. And cars go by there at least 30 miles an hour every day. And I wonder if you could put in speed bumps if you can't do anything else.
What did this is Sunny Lagersholte again, what did the zoning committee decide, or is it this body who decides if that is an alley or if it's a street? Because that was a concern at that meeting, where the gentleman in charge, that wants to do this, said that if the city changed that from an alley and made it become a street, what's that called, that street there? Rosewood, that it would be cost prohibitive and he would walk away from the deal. Has that been discussed at all?
if it's gonna stay an alley or if it's gonna turn into a regular street.
What was reported from the zoning commission was your all's input that you would like to not see Rosewood Alley, is the appropriate term, improved. So that's what got reported.
I don't think that was necessarily our position.
No,
We just wanted to make sure that it wasn't inhibited because that's our only.
Yeah. So the answer is it's an alley, no questions about
It's
street.
Rosewood Street.
Alleys have a
Yeah,
different
that's-
design
yeah,
standard.
that's-
Alleys have a different design standard than a
right, you
street.
explained that.
So, and it was very clear to the zoning
We're
commission
gonna
and to me that, that there was concern of the neighbors because their properties are closer to the alley than what would normally be allowed. That you would be concerned about a street improvement for the alley that would then cause your properties to possibly look at changing your building setbacks and whatnot.
Right.
So there's some existing situations that do not meet code requirements that I heard pretty strongly didn't want to have addressed. So
And it was-
John, who, I guess he's not here, but, John said that evening that, yes, to do full-blown curb, gutter, sidewalk, and pavement on the alley would definitely bring into question then the efficacy of the existing structures on other properties, whether they should be there or not. So to suggest a street improvement for the alley, the city would have to look at, now all of a sudden there's gonna be a pressure for folks who have built too close to that alley
Yeah,
to
but our,
do something
when
about
we
it.
were surveyed, when we bought that place, that was our property line, where our fence is. So how can the city come back now and say, oh, well, you're on 35 feet of our land?
I don't know who would have said that you were on somebody's property. It sounds like a real
I
estate.
mean, even,
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting back over this way here.
Oh, sorry.
So, that's what I'm here for. So by definition, Rosewood is considered an alley.
It is a platted alley. They have named it because there was at one time a property that only access was that. It's not, it does not meet the legal definition of legal access. And we would not accept it. It's not to our design standard as a platted street.
so you're saying the city could come back and say, we're gonna put it in, right, I misunderstood.
We're not changing it, no.
Okay.
It remains as an alley. Okay, any other comments? We're just here to hear comments tonight. Okay.
Well, I have another one.
If, we're gonna take a comment over here with Terry. If you could stand and do your name and address for us too, thanks.
Tara Martin, I live at 437 Rosewood Street. I feel that that neighborhood cannot support a large building. The intersection of Rosewood Street and Water Street is washed out. The intersection of High Street and Water Street is more washed out. Rosewood Street has drainage issues. They want to drain more onto it. People's homes are already inundated because the water has nowhere to go from that street. As far as traffic, the traffic study you're referring to was them sitting there one Tuesday afternoon. It is not representative of 7:45 in the morning when everybody's driving around. I think there needs to be a real traffic study, potentially a light at that intersection of High Street and Main Street. The one area he believes that he has access to Water Street is a private drive for Fountain Terrace. It's not a street. Roulette is not a street. So there's 2 points of access to the entire neighborhood, and that many more vehicles and that many more houses, it's gonna be a mess. And, I don't believe that the 120-year-old sewer and water is gonna hold up to the grid.
But didn't the developer that.
Thank you.
that we were at,
Okay, we're going to bring them back here for comment, okay?
Evening, my name is Frank Sternad, I live at 425 South High Street. New resident to Lewistown as of July of last year, and Doug, you pointed out that that 1.06 acres could support 13 manufactured houses, is that what you said previously?
It's zoned
It's zoned that way.
and it's already been
There's
planned.
only a small pad up there that's flat now, and the rest of it's all sloped, so is that included in that slope area?
There's 13 lots, legal building lots, on the 1.06 acres.
There are 13 graded lots?
No, 13 legally created building lots.
Okay, and so, I apologize, I'm gonna ask some questions to get caught up because I missed the first meeting. This definition of an alley and a street, I've heard conflicting reports, responsibilities, or what you wanna call them, that our property lines at that point would be jeopardized some 35 feet, is that correct?
I'm not aware of I'm not aware of who made a
Okay.
decision at some point and who said what to who as to a 35-foot setback. It's, I know of no 35-foot setbacks in the entire city of Lewistown.
Well, it was the man who's developing it told me that last week at the zoning meeting.
Okay, any other public comments?
Oh, yeah.
We're listening
I've got a
to
few
comments.
questions if I can.
Okay,
that okay?
we're taking public comment right now.
Well, isn't that what I'm doing?
Okay,
He's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I just want to hear, we want to hear, the commission would like to hear comments, so if people are commenting, please don't interrupt the person making the comments.
Okay, so, Doug, you stated that this was unanimously voted upon, last week in the meeting, that this is something that the city wants to do, or the city has approved? I'm just trying to understand the process.
The zoning commission is recommending approval to the city commission, who makes the ultimate decision,
So-
these folks.
Okay, so then we have this meeting as a discussion amongst the residents that are impacted by this decision, one way or another. What is the next step? Now that you said that, is it up to the commissioners here, these people here in this room, to make a decision and say yes or no, we want this gentleman, whoever this person is, to go ahead and develop these apartments?
Per your packet, it's yes, no, or yes with conditions.
On the zoning amendment.
On
It has nothing to do with his proposal, which is still in its infancy.
So what's on the agenda tonight is discussion and action on approving the request by Renovator to amend the zoning of the property located on Rosewood, near Fountain Terrace, South High, and East Water Street.
Okay, I'm confused because I thought he said it was already done. So it was done on one level and now you guys have to make a decision on another?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, any comment from the commission? Commissioner Rubes?
I would have to see a city's plan on what to do with, Rosewood Alley, to accommodate, right now, there's almost bomb craters in there, it's a mess. I don't see that being, enough of a transportation route to get people in and out of there.
The proposal he shared with us tonight didn't show that Rosewood would be utilized as their primary access.
Rosewood is the primary
It's
access.
not.
Oh,
He stated water
Water.
at our previous, yeah.
Have you been on East Water?
There's no idea.
And as part of the development, all of that, I mean, as properties develop, the developer is responsible for bringing certain things in, including curb, gutter, pavement, things like that. And so we would go through, all of the codes and make those necessary, improvements. Just have the developer make those improvements.
The reason the developer, as I understand it, went as far as he did with the design concept for apartments is one, to give a feel for what the apartments would look like, but also to really do a study of how you would get access to the property, both vehicular-wise and sewer and water. And so what emerged from that study is the parking will be entirely in the back of the building. So nothing will be parking on Rosewood or just on his property, the developer's property, just on the other side of Rosewood. So they'll enter off water, which is a public right of way, and that's where the sewer and water will come from. So both vehicular and sewer and water will come from Water Street, which is a city-owned public right of way and access point.
Having been in the area for a while and seen what that part of town experiences in high water years, is there a plan in the developer's grand scheme to mitigate or manage the water coming off those hills a little bit better than is currently in place?
So what is required is pre and post development. So it's actually a state law. DEQ requires you to retain the difference of your development on your property.
So does he have standing ponds, or is that not necessary in that area?
Again, those have not been developed.
They have not been yet developed. Is that something that we could make sure we see in that conditional part?
You can put conditions on them however you deem necessary
He won't get a building permit.
without.
That's what,
So do
And
like,
I suspect one of the things that should be thought about is during construction, to have silt fences or hay straw bales or something that doesn't allow water to run off, or sediment laden stormwater runoff. Because it will require some grading. Now that said, I think the plan is to break ground in the fall, simply to start the process of putting in foundations, and with the acknowledgement that not too much building can go on after the winter starts and the snow falls. So then pick up that effort in spring when it dries out, like June 27th this year. So I would think, if I'm looking at it and working with Joe, the building inspector, I would think we want to make sure that the site is buttoned up during the winter time.
that's part of the question, is because it will bridge many seasons and it is an urban area where people do live, how do you mitigate that issue of development within residential? On top of that, with discussions about the road, can the road support heavy equipment to get back there to build? Has that been reviewed or looked at?
No. I mean, ultimately, we'd have to have a construction plan and kind of how they plan on accessing it before we could evaluate.
could I just clarify for myself, maybe, and for others? Today, it's purely zoning, letting more people live in this spot. There's a whole nother approval for all of this stuff, for the
And
rainwater and,
processes, yes.
yeah, like that, all of that, this whole thing could be shut down by something totally different that's yet to be reviewed. This is just extra people on the land. There's a lot more review to do.
Could I make a historical comment? Water coming off that hillside every year flows down through our property at Fountain Terrace and overflows the big drain that we have and is eroding our stone wall on High Street at this point. It's a big deal. It is.
Doug said he had moved in there.
It's a river going down High Street, it's a river going down Water Street. You guys, if you don't live there, you don't know. It's an absolute river. That is why there's such degradation to the roads. And then what I'm really worried about was, I just heard Doug say that they might start construction on the foundations in the fall. Now I'm hearing, is this a foregone conclusion? this is gonna happen? I didn't think this
No,
was
there,
decided.
there will be another whole process for building permits.
Yeah,
And
this
this
is
is the
just
builder,
a change
it's the
zone.
builder slash owner's desire to have the rezone is the first step. But if the rezone is approved, it's the builder developer's desire to start this fall. But that's only after everything is permitted. So a construction
How long
plan,
does that take?
clearing and grading.
It ain't gonna happen by the fall.
Well, it's July 1st, so it'll be a couple of months of analysis. I don't think the builder is done with his building plans yet, so we'll see. I mean, everything is just like any other plans. If you have a date you'd like to get started, but you may not start that date.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate, and echo what Commissioner Speaka said, that tonight is the request to change the zoning of the property to residential multifamily. So just bringing it back to that. We're gonna take a question from Commissioner Robertson.
Can you clarify for me, please, Doug, if you have this, the properties adjoining this, are they R3, zone R3, multifamily? What are the, it appears in this
R3.
report, so R3.
Well, it's both. There's manufactured housing.
So the properties to the north and the west, what I'm talking about,
The north and the
southwest.
north and southwest are R3. So where the relatively newer apartments are above the dash in, and then Fountain Terrace itself is R3, and their property, that zoning adjoins this property, the R3.
That's the north.
And what about the zoning on, I guess it would be High Street, South High Street, so that across the alley from this property,
That's
similar size lots,
RMO.
RMO.
That runs along High.
Correct.
Okay, any other comments from the public?
So it would still be up to Renovator LLC to have a pretty foolproof plan to handle extra sewer for 24 families. Somehow to make, the snow that's up there in the winter that melts, it's gotta be awesome, just like you guys were saying. From when I've looked up there, there's a lot of water can come down there. It's, I don't know how, and Renovator LLC, I'm sure retains the option to change their mind if it gets too complicated or expensive, but they seem like a pretty dynamic group.
Well, and all we can really have them do is that difference between the pre and post development. I mean, there is a certain
There's a
set of site conditions that are inherent.
bunch of stuff that would have to be considered before that. Okay.
Well, I think Danny brought up a good point there about the road being able to sustain the construction traffic of heavy equipment being mobilized in and out. It'll have to be trucked in, so you're talking about quite a bit of weight. And the current roads and the condition they are, I just happen to be in construction and have been for the last 36 years of my life. I would take an opinion that those roads are not capable of handling heavy equipment being transported in and out, causing further degradation to the existing roads that are in, let's face it, I think everybody in this room knows, subpar level, roadways.
Thank you. Okay, any other comment from the commission or questions? And the public?
I was just gonna comment, I'm Diana McCollum, I live at Fountain Terrace, and snow removal, we hire people to remove the snow, leading to our condos in the main parking lot, but the dash-in hill isn't all, I call it the dash-in hill, isn't always plowed, and the same way with water, the city does come up and plow down to our parking lot, but they aren't always there if we have a heavy snow. So I see that as a problem also.
Tim Martin out of Fort Grease and Rosewood Street. There are 3 houses out there, so even during construction, Rosewood and Water are going to have to remain open to allow those people in and out. And that's, my biggest concern is making sure that my family can get out to our house, as Rosewood is the only access. So even during construction or after development, the whole time, we have to have access.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, I'll have one more comment, Frank Sternad, at 425 South High Street. Like I said, I moved here recently. The reason I'm here, and there's a good reason I'm here, but I didn't come to Montana to have an apartment building in my backyard. Had I known about this when I purchased the house back in July last year, I would have never considered buying the house. So I'd like you people here seriously to consider that there's opposition to this, and good reason for opposition. I understand the housing shortage in Lewistown. It took me quite a while to get a place that I wanted, that I could find, a couple of years as a matter of fact. But I think you're barking up the wrong tree in this area. There's plenty of other places in Lewistown where this guy, this developer can put this apartment complex. And I just want to reiterate, there's a lot of opposition here from the residents. And I'm going to be right standing in the front line as number one opposition. If I can't get, if there's others in front of me, but I'd really like the commissioners to take that into account.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, awesome. Okay, we will close this public hearing and move on to the agenda item number 2, which is discussion and action on approving the request by Renovator LLC to amend zoning of property located on Rosewood Street near Fountain Terrace Drive, South High Street, and East Water Street from residential manufactured homes to residential multiple family. I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Holly Phelps.
Yes, so as you heard, the proposal was recommended for approval by the zoning commission. There has been adequate notice. It was sent to all of the adjacent property owners within a 300-foot radius.
650
650 is how big you went?
total.
Oh, total.
So say that again, 650 people were notified?
Nope.
650 radius.
The radius is 325. Diameter is what it's.
In the interest of making sure the neighborhood knew, I wanted to get all the way to dash in the highway and at least to the mill of diversion so that every homeowner and every business would be notified within an earshot of this proposal.
And so you've heard many concerns. Again, Doug did his evaluation based on the proposal at hand. If it's granted, we will then go through the process to work with the developer on that development agreement, what's entailed, what's expected. Again, the main sewer is located on High Street and Water. I would anticipate all of that having to be excavated, and then the developer at his own cost would have to pave it back and develop that. Curb gutter, those sort of things are required under our codes as well. Access, fire codes, building codes, all of those are still to come, as well as, the permitting for snow storage spaces and runoff and things like that, both pre and post construction. We work with contractors all the time, and yes, they have to provide adequate access to all those adjacent properties and things like that. And so we do have the processes in place. If the commission does go ahead and grant this tonight, to make sure that a lot of these concerns are addressed.
So who will have the final say in approving the, building plan?
So the building code, the building inspector would, do the review and ultimately make
So
that.
then the city commission is then out of that loop.
Correct.
Do you know if this is within the TIF district? I wish I knew. It's not, is it? Just outside?
I think it is just outside of
I think it's just right,
It's
you know,
close, yeah.
the line kind of goes right there at the Yogo, right?
So it's like
the mill ditch.
Mill ditch area, so this is right on that other side.
I would love to hear thoughts from the commission. I think we can just start with Commissioner Wheeler and what.
just
some
comments and thoughts.
Comments or questions or thoughts that you have regarding this.
My initial thought is, as a commissioner, the main thing that we keep hearing from study, reviews of the town is that we do need housing. We need housing that is available for incoming workforce and also for individuals that are currently here. Housing is a big request in our community, and how we do that is very important, and we need to be conscientious with that decision. And I think I'm at that point right now in my brain.
At this point, I, plan on voting in favor of the, rezoning. Very similar to what you said, we need housing, we hear it from the community, and every community conversation we've had for years. And I think a lot of the concerns will be addressed through the development plan. That's not, our expertise at all, but I trust the process for that. I think the infill, the focus of the housing and the growth plan, this aligns with, like Doug said, and so, that's my position at this time.
I would hope that the access in and out of that area would be improved greatly to what it is now if a structure like this was to be built there. That Rosewood Alley is narrow. It's just, I know they say that nobody's gonna be driving on that, but it's gonna need a lot of thought, and I would like the people who live up there to be included in if there were any developing that's gonna happen, and I'm assuming there's gonna be movement that way, they would have to okay some of that stuff. It's a unique piece of terrain up there, it really is, and it's gonna have to be a lot of work, a lot of expense done to make this possible, in my opinion.
So is that a yes or a no from you?
There's no motion on the table right now. We're just
Oh,
having
okay.
discussion. There's been no motion made.
All right.
Any thoughts, Commissioner Robertson?
Just that I think that neighborhood is, with your being here tonight, with the people in the audience that have spoken, residents, is probably getting more attention than it's gotten in decades. And I think that, just from what I'm hearing, I haven't driven it in probably a year. The last time I drove up through that neighborhood. While I understand the concerns of having an apartment there, I think that this could be an opportunity for improvement by the city to do some work on the streets and get drainage figured out properly, because while the developer will have a responsibility to mitigate drainage issues related to their property by law, that doesn't fix necessarily the drainage that's coming down the hill and around, and so that's something that I think the city's gonna have to factor in the development plan itself and how those streets need to be improved to accommodate that. I have a concern about that alley. When I look at Google Maps or just the overhead views, it looks like it meanders through the developer's property to some degree. And off of other people's property or off of the lineup of, so I'll be interested to see what kind of site plan be developed to accommodate where the alley continues to be open for the residents that are at the end of the street right now, the alley right now.
Thank you. And then, as far as the comments that I would like to make is just that that area is already zoned and ready to go for those units, for 13 units. We're looking at adding an additional 11 to allow for that.
Yeah, 13 mobile homes.
And then I did really appreciate the point checklist. This was a lot of points that they, and all the commissioners got a chance to read through those, that entire point presentation. Awesome. Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the request by Renovator to amend the zoning of property located on Rosewood Street, from residential manufactured home to residential multifamily.
Second motion.
Okay, we have a first from Commissioner Spica and a second from Commissioner Robertson. Okay, and any other comments from the commission? Diana, do you want to weigh in on this? Can you hear us okay? Okay, we'll come back to Commissioner Hewitt. Any other comments from the public?
Yeah, I've lived in 4 different states, and it's always the same thing. The guy with the most wins.
There's lots of apartments that exist. Revamp the Broadway apartments, every single building on Main Street has apartments. There's other.
Commissioner Hewitt, can you hear us okay?
It's actually sounding like an owl.
It is.
If I may, how many commissioners are there and how many votes will there be?
We're trying to get Commissioner Hewitt on, so right now, and we have 1 absent this evening, so we have 7 commissioners.
Can you guys tell us which commissioner is actually?
Sure, yeah, Commissioner Hewitt is appearing online, but we're not, is she?
She's in Ward 2.
She's in Ward 2.
And that's where this is.
Correct. That's one of 2. And then
And Commissioner Rose.
And then we have an at-large commissioner, which is Commissioner Terry, and she is absent tonight.
Does she have a vote?
Every one of them has a vote that is in attendance.
She's not in attendance, so no vote.
So is she included in the 7 that you stated previously, or is there 6 plus her?
We have 7 commissioners, so Kelly and Terry is the at-large commissioner. But she is absent tonight, and any way we can get a message to Commissioner Hewitt? So would she be able to vote on that?
I have to have a vote. I mean, she's gonna have to answer me when I call for the vote to get a vote.
Okay.
So at this moment, if she doesn't, then we'll go from there. You have more support.
Majority.
Correct.
So let's go ahead, we have a motion from Commissioner Spica and a second from Commissioner Robertson. So we'll call for a roll call vote.
Okay. All right, so I will read this out so everybody can hear it. They have made a motion to approve the request by Renovator LLC to amend zoning of property located on Rosewood Street near Fountain Terrace Drive, South High Street, and East Water Street, from residential manufactured home to residential multifamily. Does the commission understand the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Bueller. Aye. Commissioner Day.
No. and I'd like to state my reason.
Okay,
Okay, so one is because I feel that Commissioner Hewitt has been a large part of this planning commission, and we're not getting input from her to hear her point of view and what's been discussed. I am in favor of more housing in Lewistown, and I would like to see these units go forward. But at this time, without the weigh-in from Commissioner Terry and Commissioner Hewitt with this subject as sensitive as this, I'm voting no tonight.
okay. Commissioner Hewitt,
Should we have tabled this?
it wasn't,
That's not the motion.
it wasn't motion. Commissioner Rubes,
No, not until I see more information.
okay. Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Speaka,
Yes.
Yeah, because of the lack of affirmative votes. I do have enough, okay, so let me explain. Okay, I will explain the situation. At this point, the motion dies for lack of the number of affirmative votes. We have 7 commissioners. In order to have a quorum, I have to have 4 here, so I have a quorum of 5 commissioners. We do have 1 virtual, she did not vote. So in that case, I have to have, per the city's charter, 4 affirmative votes for a motion to pass. So at this time, it has died. Now the commission needs to give guidance. It will have to come back on the next agenda.
I expect that.
So,
Does
so
it need another public comment during that?
We would always take public comment during the item. I don't know about the public hearing.
Okay.
So I personally would like to see Commissioner Hewitt weigh in on this, because she is on our planning committee, correct? And then I would also like
She's
to.
on the zoning.
On the zoning
commission that
committee,
made
okay, on
the
zoning.
unanimous recommendation, including hers,
Correct.
to do approve.
So she approved this recommendation, but I would like to hear weigh in from her. For me personally, this is my stance as a commissioner. And then, I am in favor though, as far as more housing in those units, but I would like to hear more about the being able to substantiate the additional 11 units with that.
And I'd like to, Lauren, could you do some research, Holly, and get back to us on the priority on the city street repair process?
Yeah.
Where these streets are on that list, and whether or not they could be in this year's, program.
I would say that we would wait till, if
If
approved,
approved.
construction. You wouldn't want to start construction mid-project.
Well, it sounds like they also have some ongoing issues with a couple of these adjacent streets.
Because, am I correct, once this area is rezoned, that is out of the commission's hands?
It depends, if you conditionally approve it, you can have some additional conditions. Some of the stuff that was mentioned about Main Street, the state of Montana, which regulates Main Street, is currently doing a traffic study. We could provide additional information. You can request traffic studies, things like that, as part of approvals. So, all of that is a possibility.
Do you guys somewhere have data on the size of the water and sewer mains up in that area? Do we get that stuff for us?
Could you briefly elaborate for the folks in the neighborhood who are here about the fact that Main Street is state highway?
Yeah.
Controlled by the state of Montana, and I don't want to elaborate beyond that. But can you talk about that a little bit, because there were some concerns about lights and so forth?
Yes, and it's not uncommon that after a development, you continue to partner with the developer to do both a pre-development traffic study and a post-development traffic study. And so the city of Lewistown maintains the side streets, First Avenue and Main Street, as well as the truck bypass, are all regulated by the state of Montana. That means that they do the signage, they do the traffic studies, they do all of that stuff. So it's not like the city commission could say that they needed to implement a traffic light on the project. Again, the traffic study may, and we may be able to provide that to the state of Montana, but ultimately that would be outside of your purview.
So this will most likely come up at our next agenda. Can we also have a public hearing during that one as well?
We would not have time to, notice that up for an official public hearing.
Would we need one required?
No,
we
can
could
just put it
allow
on
for
the
that
agenda,
public comment.
discussion, and, okay. Okay.
So, yeah, we would just, I don't have enough time to publish for a public hearing. I need 2 weeks, and because I didn't know, I didn't get it to the newspaper today to get it there on time for the notices.
But we won't need one, we can
But
just have
not
one on the
required.
agenda.
It's not required, but as I said before, every item on the agenda, we must allow public comment.
Yep.
So yes, we would accept any public comment. We would also accept any written comments. If you would like to get those ahead of time to the city commission, you could bring them to the city office and I would provide them in their packets to them also.
Okay, we'll be moving on to item agenda number 3. Okay, discussion and action on approving a contract with Olness and Associates for the 2024-2026 audit and authorizing the city manager to sign the contract. City Manager Holly Phelps.
I don't know if you want to give a minute to people that may want to leave. Here's some stuff that people want to.
Like I stay and talk about it on.
Yeah, everyone's welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
Thank you. Welcome. Of course. Careful, careful. Dangerous around there.
There's a poll.
Yes.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Well, for God's sake. And I voted yes.
Well, we have already, because I did hear the vote, we have already determined that it died for lack of 3 affirmative votes.
My phone
Sorry.
has been such a retard that it's, and maybe it's me, I don't know.
Okay, so it'll be back on the next agenda, Diana.
Okay, all right. Well, hopefully I'm really actually with Mr. Rubes and the fact that we need a little bit more of what the city is going to do to that street and yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. We're gonna start now with item number 3.
Okay.
So you said 3.
Not okay.
All right, item number 3, City Manager Holly Phelps.
Okay, so we are required to have an annual audit, by a governmental auditing firm. And so we just completed our last of a 3-year audit, contract. And so Nikki has been reaching out to auditing professionals and, soliciting quotes from them. And so we have 2 proposals of monetary amounts, and there were 2 other firms that were approached, but they unfortunately don't have the capacity to take on new clients. And so that is a problem within the industry. There's not a lot of governmental auditors to select. So the 2 proposals that we have tonight is Olness and Associates, who is our current auditors, and Denning, Downing, and Associates. Both of those being 3-year contracts. Again, this is for the basic audit.
Required.
Yes, required.
Are these 2 comparable, the federal, non-federal versus the 3 years? They're quoting the same exact thing, I'm
They're
assuming.
quoting the same thing. We do, with our ARPA funds, will require federal audits, but that's not included in this base price.
I'm sorry, I did not hear what she said.
Can you repeat your last statement, just that?
So the prices that were included in the packet don't include the, federal audit. So they're the same thing, they're just the base minimum required audit.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions from the commission or our public? Comments?
Are we happy and contented with all this? Would we like to see, I haven't been through an audit cycle yet.
Okay, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, sometimes we like them, and no, sometimes we don't like them. However, when you look at the Denning one, they're asking for 20,000 more.
Yep.
And they will not do some of the things that Oldest is already provided
Okay.
in their 44,000. It is I go to all these clerks meetings, I attend the institute, I'm on the education board, and it is very difficult to get auditors. And, if you're in a situation where you need an auditor, they're gonna come in and charge you as much as they possibly can. Because you need an audit, you have to. So I recommend that we stick with Oldest. I don't wanna get in a situation where we don't have auditors.
Yeah, this other one expired last month anyway.
They would have extended it, but like I said, it was
Okay.
about 16,000 more, and it didn't even cover everything that these guys are willing to do for us.
I move we approve a contract with Olness and Associates for the fiscal year 2024-2026 audit and authorize the city manager to sign the contract.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Commissioner Rubes and a second from Commissioner Bueller. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay, we'll call for a roll call vote.
Okay. Sorry, just a second here. We are going to approve a contract with Oldest and Associates for a 3-year contract, authorizing the city manager to sign the contract. Commissioner Bueller? Aye. Commissioner Day?
Aye.
Commissioner Hewitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rubes?
Did you get it?
Got it. Commissioner Robertson?
Okay.
Commissioner Speaka? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4, discussion and action on approving the purchase of a 2015 Chevrolet pickup from Courtesy Motors in the amount of $31,500 for the street department. City Manager Holly Phelps.
Yes, included in the packet is a request, for a street truck or a truck for the pickup truck for the street department. This is something that was budgeted. They have spent the last several months looking for a good used vehicle, that would meet their needs. Unfortunately, they were only able to get one quote from a local company, and that is Courtesy Motors. Again, a good quality used truck, local business, and it was something we had budgeted in the budget we completed. Is our recommendation that that authorization forward into the new budget year. Because our purchasing policy requires us to bring all of these expenditures above $15,000. We're here tonight. Also, our purchasing policy between 5,000 and 80,000 is a solicitation. So we don't have to do the formalized bid packet and advertisement. We can just solicit.
I'm kind of out of the loop on truck buying, but I thought 31,000 was a lot for close to 200,000.
It's that $6,000 flatbed they're gonna put on it.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, the truck doesn't even have 100,000 miles on it, so
Oh, I thought that it,
it should last another.
I thought the.
2,500 HD, that's not, it's a 3/4 ton pickup truck.
Yeah,
That's-
having just bought a truck, yep.
It has 94,000 miles on it.
Oh, it has 94,000
Correct.
miles on it? Okay. Where did I miss that?
I don't know, sorry.
It's actually not a terrible place.
I was gonna say.
Sadly, I mean,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying down there.
yes, and this price includes a trade-in for one of our
That still
gently
has a
used
200,000.
trucks, I'm sure.
Awesome. Any other comments or from the public? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Just to confirm, this has already been budgeted.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Budgeted in last year's budget,
Yep.
we will have to
Push
reallocate
it to the
that
next.
money in this budget.
Perfect, thank you.
You should have been here when we were trying to get a police cruiser.
I think
We
I was.
still haven't
and
gotten that one.
I'm not gonna, I was, and then I left for a while, and you still haven't gotten. it.
Probably the same one.
It's the same one.
Is there a motion?
I move we approve the purchase of the 2016 Chevrolet pickup from Courtesy Motors in the amount of $31,500 for the street department.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Commissioner Bueller, a second from Commissioner Robertson. So any other discussion, questions or comments from the commission or public? Okay, roll call vote.
All right. So we're approving the purchase of a 2016 Chevy for $31,500. Commissioner Bueller. Aye. Commissioner Day.
Aye.
Commissioner Hewitt.
Aye.
Commissioner Rubes.
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson.
Aye.
Commissioner Speaka.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5, this is the first reading of ordinance number 1772, an ordinance amending City of Lewistown Code 5-15-1 as it pertains to distances between churches and schools and establishments with a liquor license within city limits. City Manager Holly.
Yes, so what you have in your packet is a good start. The ordinance committee, which is comprised of Commissioner Terry, Day, and Commissioner Roos, met with, city attorney and myself, what was that, last week? And this is not quite what we discussed at the meeting, but I think it's still something that we should visit about. I would not recommend passing this on first reading. I think what we proposed has just a few minor tweaks, but was maybe better captured what we had hoped would be accomplished in this. And so I don't know if you guys looked it over. Again, this is based on that supplanting. So it is supplanting the distance, the separation requirement between liquor establishments in churches and schools. And so what was actually proposed, and not really reflected here, is that we have kind of a tiered approach. So beer and wine would be treated a little bit differently and then a full liquor license. And so that beer and wine could be supplanted or not required any separation in those commercial zones, and a full liquor license would not have any amendments. So it would still require the separation.
So when we discussed this, we talked about still having a foot requirement for just different between schools and churches. But this reading wipes that out for one of them, but that we discussed differently, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I was looking for that, like, oh, I thought that we.
And what
Say none?
we were modeling is after some ordinance language from California.
So clarify for me again, there was some distance language. So this is not the way that you were hoping to see.
That's why we're not recommending passing it on first reading. If there's any clarifications or questions, or kind of a different train of thought, please speak up, otherwise we'll take another stab at it at the next meeting.
So this is saying that beer and wine versus beer, wine, and liquor are treated differently.
This one is for any level of liquor licenses. There are certain.
Right.
Any level of liquor license, the requirement to have that separation would not be in effect for churches at all, for any level. And for schools, for any level, it would be 300 feet. Okay? So that's close. We talked about the staggered, but it was not for any level of liquor licenses. There was another kind of tier for full liquor versus beer and wine. Okay?
And then,
So when will this come back? Next meeting?
Well, we'll need to give
Yeah.
some direction to the city manager of what we want to see specific in it. So I would like to see what we discussed as far as like a foot restriction, it's writing for the churches and the schools, we did discuss at 300.
Right.
And then also that separation between the beer and wine versus the full liquor.
and then what are our commercial zones currently?
So that is where establishments can currently be located.
Yep.
And that's only in our commercial zones. I actually happen to have the zoning zone up, and so it's primarily Main Street, truck bypass, and First Avenue.
It's not street off.
It's
Within a block of.
half of the park, and, kind of into radio station, it goes up to Broadway. Otherwise it's at the alleys, for most of it. It does kind of bulge out around, the East Main Street area and extend to what then buffers right into the truck bypass. So that goes from Dodge Street, so a block off of Main, or off of First Avenue, either side. As you go up and down it, it's probably.
And the daycare was on Juno, but it was zoned commercial, right?
No, the daycare is on, which daycare?
The one that we just added a variance for.
Yes, Juno.
No.
Juno.
Yeah, they're on Juno.
For the, Tiffany.
Precious.
Yes,
Yeah.
Precious.
How close is that to the mint?
What'd you say?
So how close is that to the mint?
I was gonna say, couple blocks.
It's not,
So it's not on the same
current
street.
state law is 600 feet and on the same,
Or same.
And Mint would be off
or Fourth
Fourth
Avenue.
Avenue.
Can, Lorraine, you're on this committee. What's the thought on, a foot, like 300, I know is state law, but if we pick something other than that. 600 is the, it feels a little arbitrary, we don't have a reason, like, kids can't walk more than 200 feet, or like.
And when we met, we all kind of liked the idea of a little bit more protection with the schools, just because that kind of the consensus of, because a lot of these churches are already within X amount of, like, we already have that existing in our community. But that's what we were looking at, is still keeping kind of like the compromise of things, still keeping with the, the subplan as far as allowing that to happen, but still at the same time protecting those areas that the state law has in mind. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess it just seems like, because you're proposing 300 feet, you say, from schools. What, in practicality, is that gonna do anything, or is that just extra laws for no
We
real
were looking
benefit?
at the junior high, we were talking about some of those commercial areas kind of butting up with the junior high mostly, but
Okay,
I
so
don't know
that's
if we
the driver behind
necessarily.
that.
Lane.
Yeah,
All of the other schools are outside of the commercial,
Mhm.
so really it is the junior high, which is in that neighborhood commercial, and it's just like the first half of the block to the alley.
The school still owns the lot next to it though. Okay.
Commissioner Hewitt,
Yes.
have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to see that change to beer and wine strictly. I don't want any hard liquor, within any feet of churches or schools or et cetera. That was, not in our original, when we discussed it. And that was the first thing that jumped out at me when I started reading this, was the fact that, you have a level of liquor license and a full one. And no, we don't want a full liquor license. And they aren't requesting one. All they're requesting is a beer wine.
Correct.
And we need to change it in the ordinance. Yeah, that all needs to be rewritten.
Thank you.
Do you want to explain
Yep.
why though? Sometimes some of this just seems like, do we need all these
We,
extra laws for the
we
make a
talked,
difference?
we talked a lot about enforcement, how are we gonna enforce this with some of this stuff? And in practicality, with the beer, and it's gonna be, first of all, the availability of full-blown liquor licenses is rare.
Yeah.
You know that.
Mhm.
It's just that the idea behind having the beer and wine limitation on that. Without that, I don't think we could deviate from the 600 foot.
I can
I
be
don't-
drunk and
I
silly
think
on
it's
wine.
Yeah,
I can.
I know,
I agree
I
with you
know.
on that. And I do think it's a big deal what we did to supplant state law like that. Even though we did it, you know what I mean? It's a big deal. And I think that this kind of just adds more layers of protection for what these operations can and can't do. That was my feeling, and that's what I contributed in to that, was wanting to see, just that added layer of protection and not deviate so much from, okay, we've taken this state law, we supplanted, and now we're just kind of creating our own, but at the same time, we're just making the amendments that's going to work the best for our community.
So in thinking about what's best for our community, currently we have many churches down in kind of our more business zone, but we only have one school. What if we retained the 600 feet for schools? Like, is that just thinking with how we are supplanting state law, but we could hold on to that state law part for schools and not have it affect what we just did, right? Or am I thinking about that wrong?
Right, but if you go backwards to the 600, doesn't that affect what we've already done, or no?
No, because theirs is a church. Again, daycares are not considered schools.
Right.
And
Right.
doesn't that?
Really doesn't, so the 300, 600 isn't really in effect here because
Exactly.
we're just dealing with the junior high. But I would like to still see something designated for churches, and then also, having the separation of the beer and wine is just what we discussed from the hard liquor. That would be the feedback that I give to amending this particular ordinance, but. Does that answer your question? A little bit? Yeah, I mean, I see.
I'm not sure I agree, but I think you
Yeah,
answered
no,
it.
that's okay.
Yes, you answered
Yeah,
Any other comments?
Number one, I question, what is the definition of schools? Is there a definition
There
somewhere?
is by state law, there is a definition of schools, basically public institutions. So Head Start, maybe, but K-12 schools in the state. Or in the, So Small Wonder is not one. Currently an administrative building. And I don't know if that houses any students.
But if,
Does,
what would the effect be, for instance, if Lincoln wanted to become, students in that again?
Speak up.
I'm not even trying to play it out, I'm just trying to what about that as a building that might turn back into a school?
exactly.
If we had significant growth, it's already been a school, I know it needs updates, but, so that would be my first, I'm with Commissioner Speaka, I don't know if you really look at it hard, if I look at it really hard, if I see a difference between beer and wine and hard liquor licenses.
Yeah.
I see a lot more people getting drunk on beer than they do on anything in our community, it seems. You go down the aisle, you see a lot more beer sold in this community than you do anything else. And I had the same question Commissioner Speaker had, which is 300 a magic number, or half of 600, or was there somebody that actually, here's what I just didn't know if there was a number.
It is the length of a typical city block. Now, I don't know that that's the reason that the state law was created, is 2 city blocks. But I think it was just probably more of a random number, half of what was expected by the state.
You can be a little bit closer in Lewistown.
So,
We modeled it after Kalispell, so.
You can be a little bit closer in Kalispell.
my other 2 observations are we're growing, and so I would expect that rest of town, there will be more establishments wanting liquor licenses, as well as schools and churches. And we might want to think really hard about how could that affect things. There are churches already on the west side of town.
Yeah, like the Baptist one up there.
There are a couple of churches up there, and so there are some severe limitations out that way based on churches.
Well, and the New Life owns property on the east side of town, so.
Doesn't
Just my last comment. I think the Eagles and the Catholic Church have been cohabitating peacefully for decades. And so I'm struggling with, and having grown up in Wisconsin, which has a church and a school on every corner. I'm struggling not to say that we should change things or not change things, I'm just trying to square the language and the different ideas.
Doesn't the type of liquor license though, like hard liquor versus beer and wine, determine the establishment, and the establishment determines?
The state has regulations on
The
each
state
establishment.
And even something like a brewery has an entirely different set of limitations.
So for us, as far as putting that ordinance together, if I'm hearing this correctly, you're saying it makes no difference whether there is a Montana liquor, beer and wine, or whether there's beer and wine. That's what I'm hearing from everybody, is that there's no difference between that liquor, beer, wine, alcohol is alcohol.
I would voice that the distinction I see is that a bar more likely is going to have a full liquor license, whereas an eating establishment or something like the Mob will have that beer and wine only, because full liquor license is as easy to get. So there is distinction, and there is distinction in the type of establishment that can be built there. Is that distinction something that we want to acknowledge with our zoning though?
I think in the Mint,
Exactly.
you could put up a church right across from there, and it seems just fine.
But then it would hamper the sale, because if the Mint sold tomorrow and there was a church across the street, the state would not renew their license. It's a whole new license.
Really problematic.
Yes.
Or if a ribbon shot house came to Lewistown,
correct.
they would want a full bar.
Yep.
They
And
would
so-
pay for a full bar, and they would put it on the west side of town in all likelihood.
Yeah.
Or there will be future development.
And so it does hamper development potential.
That's a big problem, I feel like.
And so the church can always come before or after, but it's really, it falls on the bar if it's allowed by the state or not.
So that's state regulated.
Correct.
It feels like the community kind of just developed despite, not that anybody did anything wrong, I'm simply saying that churches that are already down here, some of the alcohol establishments that are here, I'd love to know the sequence to figure out how they're
Well, and if it's not on the same, like address to the same street, because it's an and, it's not an or, it's an and. And so,
That's it right there.
again, it's about that door and the orientation of your front doors.
So get your address on the other street.
Face the other direction.
All right, now I understand.
And that was the big thing
Mm-hmm.
with the most recent was why don't you go, or no,
Six.
one of those
Six.
streets. And they couldn't have a main door to six.
Which it all seems silly if we're trying to protect people from alcohol. That's all just paperwork and nothing makes any difference.
And then
So
it
why
comes
have
to
the
the
law at
actual
all?
And
reasoning
so,
behind that.
are we thinking that, I mean, a consensus, do you want to see an ordinance come with different distances or treating full liquor different than beer and wine?
No.
I think we're not decided on that.
I'd say fully supplant. That would be fine.
Well, there has to be, there has to be some type of for the ordinance to go through, there has to be some type of a recommendation for what we're doing for the supplanting, right?
You
Yeah,
could
right.
supplant just supplant that distance period for everything. I mean, that is an option.
How close is the junior high?
To what?
Well, I guess that's a good question, right?
I mean,
That's true.
again, that Triangle Gun Shop could,
Uh-huh.
I mean, have
You
sold,
can
it
sell
was
guns
for
there right
sale.
next to the school.
And you
Get a hotel room.
could put an
Yeah.
establishment there,
Yeah.
but the state wouldn't have allowed it currently, but does the city regulation then allow?
Can I make a comment?
We're gonna take a comment.
Oh,
Commissioner
no, go ahead.
Robertson. Oh, you're good? Okay. Okay, Commissioner Hewitt?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to tell you guys, we looked into this several years ago on a full liquor license and a beer and wine. And there probably are not any full liquor licenses available in Fergus County. They run anywhere from, well, the least expensive that I saw was $300,000, and they can go up to $600,000 or more to purchase one. And that is why I do believe that MOB is asking only for a beer and wine license and for the footage to be changed, or the footage or whatever, to get it changed so they can have a beer and wine. And I don't believe that people are going to go in there and drink constantly anyway. I think it's more for when they have their shows and things that they would like to be able to do that, to have a beer and wine available if one wants it. So I like I say, cost-wise, and a beer and wine license in a food restaurant can run maybe $50,000, but sometimes it's a lot more than that. It depends. But like I say, I'm sure there are not any full liquor licenses available, and I would not even consider voting for a full liquor license. I don't care if it's commercial or not, for anywhere in the area. Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Speaker?
I mean, I can keep going. You want us all to take turn? I all things considered, I definitely fully support planting. I don't think beer, wine, or liquor makes a difference. I don't think distance makes a difference in what outcome we're trying to achieve. I think it only makes it harder for somebody. I was in charge, that's what I would say.
But we need to still have an ordinance in play, correct? When we supplant, we still need to have a legal ordinance stating what that supplantation, like what we're doing with that, okay? Any other comments?
No need for the beer.
And I would add to that, that if we are taking into consideration new builds would have to move front door a lot more easily than our already built downtown area. And so you would hope they take it into consideration.
What is it doing then? We're not doing anything with it.
The idea is, boys and girls, that if somebody wants to open a bar, they're not gonna do it with just a beer and wine license. They want the whole thing. They wanna be able to pour 4 fingers of Jack Daniels in a glass and sell it to somebody. The idea behind a beer and wine, in my opinion, is the ambiance of the facility serving it. And that's gonna limit greatly this idea of setting a precedence. I mean, if you wanna, you know, and that's why I support the beer and wine, and then the variance to what's going on here. I see it as something positive.
I know in our community, there's only like one restaurant that has a liquor license, but they can grow in time, you know, laws can change, more can become available, and many restaurants that are nice ambiance have liquor licenses, I think, even like Applebee's, you know. Rib and Chop Shop, lots of very nice restaurants.
Damn word.
That are available.
Okay, any other comments?
I think if we want, as kind of echo what Commissioner Speaka said, if we expect, and if I talk to people in this community, they feel there's a significant lack of good restaurants, more restaurants, just per capita, need more restaurants. And if we want larger restaurant establishments that are open 7 days a week and that do fine dining, we should expect that they're going to want a full liquor license. They can't survive on food alone. That's how restaurants survive.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a full liquor license to survive. A huge survive in a boutique, but in a community like ours, a full restaurant needs a full bar license. I'm not saying we have to change it necessarily, because I agree that, you know, likelihood if they do come in and they build a multi-million-dollar restaurant, it's gonna be on their own side street.
Mm-hmm.
But like Harry's has a beer and wine license, I think they're doing fine. Now, I'm not sure about, the old Central Feed building. They don't have a full liquor license, do they?
Well,
Oh,
it
yeah.
just comes back to the point that there
Yeah,
are
they-
probably no or very few, if any, full liquor licenses available for our area.
But
So
right
today-
now, and
today.
actually you could buy the Julie Shadows and have one right
Exactly.
now, so it is a.
And that's where I'm like, there is a finite currently amount of full liquors that are actually available. And my brain's tired.
If you do keep it beer and wine, I'm sure you guys, and our lawyer can look into it, but I'm sure we need more detail than that, because there's 5 different kinds of that out there, the cabaret, and a bunch of different types of just beer and wine designations, so.
But fundamentally, we are not trying to restrict full liquor licenses. What we are doing is saying, if we say that when schools and churches are in the area, this is the space that you would need to give them, right?
Even if they.
So we're not hindering development.
creating a buffer.
But that's what the state.
I feel like we're losing the sight of the issue that we took
Yep.
state law, we so planted it, and now we're coming up with this ordinance that's going to allow for that. And now I feel like we're rewriting a whole ordinance to figure out how to let new growth and development come in and add these establishments in when it's not something that we really regulate. We just need to make sure that this ordinance complies to what we had originally wanted and discussed without,
Which was what though?
which was
we
to
don't wanna-
allow, yeah, and so that was what our committee, and Kelly and Terry is not here, and she had some things to say on that, but what the committee was doing to change the churches and the schools. I mean, like, if we wanna discuss that that's a full subplantation, then this ordinance is gonna have to change drastically.
Correct.
I think though it is about growth and development because we're creating a new ordinance that we want to serve us going forward with this growth. So I think, and I think too, this isn't about mob. We keep talking about them and what they're gonna want in their beer and wine, but this isn't about mob at all. This is about how we want our community to be able to build and grow and develop as it goes on.
Okay, so you would like to see no restrictions in the writing of the ordinance, no restrictions for churches or schools, and to allow for Montana liquor, beer, and wine completely?
I would, because I don't think it makes any difference. I'm sure the purpose of the original law is to protect kids and people who don't want to be around alcohol. I don't think our proposed version of our ordinance will do any of that. And I guess I'm not like at all bothered by subplanting because they explicitly say we can.
Yeah.
So it's very much allowed.
Awesome. Well, then let's just, let me entertain a motion here to approve, disapprove, or amend.
Or if there's
no action,
Don't
it
have to
just
take
dies.
any action, they can just die. I mean,
But
it'll
what we
just come
can
back.
take is some points moving forward and maybe the addition amendment
Bring
of it.
something back next.
Good luck.
Cool.
Yeah, if it dies, it has to come back.
Before we do that, any comment from the public? We've heard a lot of commission comment. Good, okay, awesome. So let's see what the action is tonight on item number 5.
I know I'm the most vocal, but I know that like, I don't have to be the one deciding this. You don't have to write it like I want. You know that.
You're not the most vocal, you're one of the vocal. Well, it was already recommended by the city manager not to take action, so.
So can we just let it die? Okay, all right, item number 5 has died. Okay, citizens request, moving on. Are there any citizens requests? Okay, awesome. Commissioner minutes. Which way do you guys want to go? Commissioner Hewitt, do you have any commissioner minutes?
Oh, we meet at the airport meets Wednesday. And I guess I probably should have, I don't know if I'm supposed to give a report on, zoning, because, he already did it, pretty much, on what was going on, and
Voting at our next meeting. We'll have more discussion on that.
right.
We'll start with Commissioner Bueller.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, public. Just gonna say that. It's been a meeting. Appreciate all of your insight. You too, Diane.
Just that for the, Rosewood, I disagree with you, but I'm very glad you said your why, and your no, and wanting to have more conversation about it, and I respect that a lot.
Thank you.
There's a lot of potholes, and I know you addressed that there's a list, but, is there any way we could speed it up?
If the weather holds, they can get some materials and stuff like that. It's just, I mean, again, when it's rainy and snowy, it's very difficult for guys to take a delivery of a bulk amount and get out there and patch it, so.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I've been receiving photos from Ms. Dacus on the condition of the potholes on Joyland as well. So is there a way we can?
Is it on Joyland or on
It's on
Valley
the
View?
turn off when you come off of First onto her street, onto Joyland, right? Yeah, as soon as you turn there, the area that was.
Is it in the
called
gravel?
out,
It's in the gravel, okay. Because Joyland is not a city street, it is also a state route, so. But
So that's state route.
side street, the one she lives off of, is a.
Well, that's all in the city, it's city street.
But we don't maintain.
Is there a way we can just get information to her on when that street repair is coming?
And the roller is currently out of commission and waiting for repairs, so that has slowed things.
Take a grader in there and drop the blade and fill in the holes.
In order for it to stick, you've gotta compact it though, otherwise a rainstorm comes along and we're back to square one.
Detonates it right there.
Just as long as Public Works is aware and comes.
I will double check that that one is on the list, because I did not.
The other thing that I had was just, I met with the representative from the LDA board today, and they just have a lot of things going forward that they're looking at with their strategic plan last 2 years. And they wanted me to communicate to the commission that they will be doing Wednesday meetings for July and August, and then back on for September this fall, they're going back to their Monday meetings, and they would love to invite someone from the commission to attend those meetings and give feedback or hear what the exciting things that they're doing pretty much, so that we can support more of that downtown presence and the beautification that they're working on. They have a couple new things coming that this year they're trying to look at bringing Shop Small Business Saturday and starting a community tree lighting for Christmas season in the downtown area. So they've got some things in the works. I am in favor of more housing in a big way, and I would love to see those additional 11 units adding, but I think with the temperature of everything in here tonight, there are a lot of people that are not understanding what's happening in their community. I'm not a representative of Ward 2, but I am a representative of the citizens in the community, and I think there needs to be a lot of information that's educated for the public so that they know. I think what you said was amazing as far as this is a great opportunity for streets to improve and for things to happen in that area. So that was another reason why I voted no, but I know that everyone will do their homework and bring it back and make a good decision on that so that we can see more housing in our community. And anything else for the good of the order from the commission or the public? Thank you for being here tonight. It was a long one and we got a lot done and a lot of good information shared, so thank you. Meeting adjourned. What?